I've got this thrifted frame here I got from Goodwill for a few dollars, and it didn't come with a backing or glass or anything, so I thought that it would work well for this project. But there are several other things, other types of frames that you could use for this project. You could even use a glass plate from the Dollar Tree, one of the frames from the Dollar Tree. They've been coming out with some very decorative frames I think would work well to make a sort of Christmas frame like I'm making here. And I'm going to give it a few coats of this True Burgundy by Folk Art. I also have this very thin piece of chipboard. It's like a thin cardboard, sort of the thickness of a cereal box, and I'm going to give it a few coats of the True Burgundy as well, just on one side. I have one of these frames out of a stretched canvas from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to glue that to that chipboard. And the pack of chipboard that I bought is in my Amazon store, link in the description box. I went over just the details and the edges of this frame with gold leaf rub and buff. Once that glue's set up, I just cut away that excess chipboard. I got this little Santa ornament here from Walmart for a couple of bucks. I saw that they do have another style of a Santa ornament that has a red hat, and that would work as well. You know, I'm sure you can find Santa ornaments just about anywhere. And I'm sorry if I sound a little bit nasally. I have a little bit of a cold this week. The back of his hat was a little bit bulky. It was sticking out the back, and I wanted him to be able to lay flush. So I just cut away some of his hat on the back and a little bit of that polyfill. And I hot glued him to that cardboard there inside of my canvas frame. I took this Titebond glue here, and I'm just going to glue the frame to the frame. And this has created sort of a shadow box with a portrait, you know, sort of a bust of Santa there. Okay, y'all, here's another way that you could do this with Dollar Tree items. If you can't find these, they also have some pretty arch ones, and they have some pretty square ones that are in this style too that have a lot of details around them. I think I have one over there. But you can find, there's a few different really decorative frames that are small, 5x7, around that size at the Dollar Tree. But you could take one of these certificate frames from the Dollar Tree, and then to make it a little more, like, instead of raising the other way I showed you, you would raise it up off of that board. To make it more like it's set in, like the one that I did, take and use this backing as your front. Like, take the glass out and then use that cardboard, or you could put a new piece of cardboard in there, or chipboard, and then trace around and cut it out a little bit smaller, you know, than what you traced. And then just do the same exact thing that I did. You know, just attach this to the back, put your thin cardboard or your chipboard there on the back. You know, of course, remove the backing here out of your frame to where it's just the frame. And then you'll have an oval opening here in the front in that cardboard. Then you would glue your frame here, and you would have this inset, you know, this sort of shadow box here, because you put this canvas frame from the Dollar Tree on the back. So that's a way that you could do that, you know, with just Dollar Tree items. Oh, and one more thing. If you don't get a good seal when you glue, if you did this, if you glued your frame to that cardboard and you didn't get a perfect seal, like there were some gaps, I would go in with some of that lightweight spackling and just seal up any of those gaps around the frame, making that like one piece, and then, you know, paint it all red or whatever color that you want. And to make it even easier, you don't even have to have the Santa head set inside of a shadow box like I did. You could just frame it. It would be sticking out of the front of the frame a little bit. I thought that setting it in, gave it a neat look, but you wouldn't have to do that. It would look just fine, just framing it. Now, because there is a wood frame inside of here, I will be able to hang a wall hanger here on the back so that I could hang it on the wall. Okay guys, it's that time again. This is the Just Our Imagination playlist challenge that happens every month. And the hosts of that challenge are Kathy Jo DIYs, Rustic and Lace DIY, and this month the guest host is Clari's Creations. Now what makes this a challenge is that every month they choose 3 challenge items that we must use, that we must craft with. And this month, those challenge items are tumbling tower blocks, and I'm assuming you could also use Jenga blocks. Tumbling tower blocks are just the generic ones from Dollar Tree. Embroidery hoop, so those are great items to craft with, but then the most challenging for sure is acrylic nails, fake fingernails. So I'll have more on this playlist later, but for now, let's see what I did with these items. I have about, 7 tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree, a couple of just out of my wood scrap box. I believe it was just pieces of a wood easel, just longer than the tumbling tower blocks. I wanted various sizes. And then that last really large piece is the end of a garden stake. I glued those darker ones together. Those are going to be the base of what I'm making. And then I cut down a couple of those tumbling tower blocks. Again, I just wanted various sizes. And I'm using my miter shears to cut those down, and those are in my Amazon shop. I also mitered the top to a point for the roofs, and I did 45-degree angles on those. I just took some garbage, really, some thin cardboard off of some packaging that I had in the garbage, and I took 2 sizes of a hole punch and made a little donut shape for one of the windows, sort of an attic window. And then I just took a popsicle stick and a coffee stirrer and just cut down some little doors, and then I took some more of that packaging and cut out some little rectangles for windows. I also cut up a couple different sizes of popsicle sticks, craft sticks for the roofs of the little buildings as well. The roof pieces didn't match up perfectly because I didn't miter them, but I'm just going to go back later and add some lightweight spackling to fill in my mistakes. Once that spackling's set up, I lightly sanded it smooth. I used this antique copper for a couple of the roofs, and then I just added some gray paint to that copper to make a different color for the rest of the other buildings or houses. I painted all the little houses with cashew chalk paint, and then I used Varathane gel stain for the doors. I used Aleene's tacky glue to glue all those down. It was kind of difficult to make the window panes because it was so tiny. I was using the fine tip marker here, but it wasn't fine enough. So I did have to go back in with my white paint marker and fix my mistakes as best as I could. It's not easy to draw things that are this tiny. I used Titebond to glue all the little houses down to the base. And then I have this tiny little tree. Shirley gave me that. Thank you, Shirley. I wanted to change the green on it, and so I did go over that with English ivy green, and then I glued it down as well. Now to make this little village wintry, I added snow and just haphazardly put it on there. You know, if anything was ugly or I didn't do too good of a job on it, I made sure to hit that area with a lot of snow. You know, in the warm months, we cover up our mistakes with moss. And then in the winter months, we cover up our crafting mistakes with snow. So very handy. You could take some little, they're called screw eyes. And you could, you know, put a hook on these to make them, because that, especially in that garden stake there, that's very, you know, good solid wood there. I could easily, you know, do a pilot hole, drill a pilot hole, or even hammer a pilot hole, and then screw that little hook down in there and turn this into an ornament very easily, or it could be a shelf sitter. This is just a quick reminder that if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hype it as well if you're able to, if you're watching within the first 7 days of it coming out, and subscribe if you haven't already. That way you don't miss any future videos. I have this piece of canvas here that I had previously taken off of another Dollar Tree stretched canvas. I had used the wood frame for another craft. And so I have this canvas here, and I'm going to tape it to a piece of cardstock so that I can run it through my printer. And I taped it with the unpainted side facing up so I could print on that unpainted side. This 4-inch embroidery hoop, and I'm going to stain it with my Varathane gel stain. That is in my Amazon store. And this will be a free printable in the description box if you're interested. I saw this saying on another ornament. I believe it was at Cracker Barrel a few years ago, and I took note of it. I actually took a picture of it and saved it for myself for later, and I'm getting around to making it now. And I actually designed this on ChatGPT. So I'm a little bit ashamed. Usually when I make y'all printables, I make it myself on Photoshop, but I did not know how to make something look cross-stitched on Photoshop. That's, you know, out of my, I don't know, I would not know how to go about that. And so ChatGPT did do a good job making this for me after I prompted it to. And that will be a free printable down below. It's a link directly to the printable, and it's free, of course. You could also, of course, just print this on paper and then Mod Podge it to, you know, to a crafting ornament, or even a wood round, like a 4-inch wood round. They sell those sometimes at Dollar Tree, but I know they sell them, I'm pretty sure they sell them at Walmart. You go in your print settings, you can size up and down so that it, you know, makes it larger and smaller. Like, you know, 100% would make it the size that mine printed. And then, of course, you know, you go lower than 100 to make it smaller, and larger than 100% to make it larger, depending on what you're going to be putting it on. And I just used some twine as a hanger for that. I was glad to have my Christmas tree up finally so that I could take the picture and video of this ornament on it. I have been on the ornaments I've made this year. I didn't have my Christmas tree up, and so I was going out front and putting my ornaments that I made on a shrub out front of my house. So I was glad to have a Christmas tree, to actually hang my ornaments on that I've made. I need to get a Christmas tree for my craft room just to take photos of the ornaments I make and video. But I mean, I don't really have room for that, but that would be nice to have for sure. Okay, now I'm attempting to tackle these fingernails. Never in a million years thought I would be crafting with fingernails. But I've got this styrofoam cone from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut it down to make my tree smaller. I had 3 packs of the fingernails from the Dollar Tree. It came in 100 in a pack. I thought it was a really good deal for $1.25. But I wasn't sure about the project. I was just winging it. And so I thought I should make it smaller just in case, so I knew I had more than enough of the fingernails. Now, these styrofoam cones don't have a point on them. And so I just glued some floral foam to the top and then cut that to a point. So I had a full, tree form here to start with. I started with the largest size fingernail and I glued a row of them around the bottom of my tree form. Forgot to mention that I did use one of those Dollar Tree stick pieces. They, used to anyway, sold packs of sticks that are, a good size for crafting. And I used that as the tree trunk. And then as I went up the tree, I went with the smaller sized fingernails as I went up. At first, the tree stood on its own just fine, but as I added those fingernails, it got top heavy. And so I did have to add a base to the bottom of the tree. These fingernails were very easy to cut in half. And so I did have to do that near the top, use a few pieces to fill in some spaces. It's always difficult when you're making, covering something, covering a tree form in something to make a Christmas tree. Once you get to the top, it gets more complicated. It just, you're running out of space and things aren't, you're having to overlap or fill in with smaller pieces, and that's just the way it always goes. And so it's always, the bottom of your tree is always prettier. Then when you get toward the top, you can see, she was struggling, to make it look good at the top and everything come together at a point nicely. I did stick a couple of pieces in the top there because I wasn't sure if I was going to add a star, and I also wasn't sure what kind of star I was going to add. I thought maybe I could use those little pieces to glue the star to them, but I ended up going a different route. I did take my tweezers and attempt to get as many of those glue strings off of this as I could. And there are so many things you could do with this. Different colors you could paint it. It did look interesting. It had an interesting look to it. My son said he liked it just clear like that, but that's definitely not my style. It does look kind of icy, but I wanted to paint it with English ivy green, and I did decide to go over it first with a coat of moss chalk paint, and that was a very pretty color, but I do like the English ivy better, and so I just used that moss as a base coat. Because it's a chalk paint, it's nice and thick and made for less coats of the English ivy. Now, I wish I would have just stopped here. I like this tree just plain, with the star or without, just the plain green color. It seemed like it needed something else, but at this point right here, I'm wishing that I had just stayed with the solid green and the gold star on top and the stained base, but I do continue. That star is just one that I got off of another Dollar Tree piece, I think a tinsel tree from a long time ago. I've already done, gold tipped green trees for Christmas on here, and what I really wanted to do was use some gold pitberry garland from the Dollar Tree, but when I put it on there, it was oversized. My tree is kind of small, and so the berry garland looked too big. It looked silly on there, and so I thought, I haven't done a snowy tree yet this year, and so I thought that I would go that route, but Once I did it, it looked okay, but I did regret it. And staining that base was sort of pointless because I did go over that with snow. It made sense to have the ground snowy if the tree was going to be snowy. It looks okay. I mean, it definitely looks interesting. I don't think that you would guess fingernails. I mean, I can't unsee the fingernails. When I look at it, I just think fingernails. I couldn't even believe that I had a folder on my computer that says fingernail tree. Just like, what am I doing? But that's it for this one. Don't forget to go check out the playlist. I will have the links to the host channels and the co-host channel in the description box of this video. And I'll have the link to the playlist as well. And so you want to go check out that playlist, see what everyone else made with these challenge items, especially those fingernails. It's always interesting to see where different crafters' minds go when using different, the same craft supply, challenging craft supply, but our brains, sometimes our brains think of the same things, and then sometimes it's just really different what everybody comes up with. So it's always interesting to see what everybody makes. You definitely want to go check that out. That's it for this one. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.